So I want to talk a bit about choices. Specifically, I think there's a bit of a problem in what we're focusing on, especially in the mainstream discourse, mostly on how much they matter. This is where the quotes have to be. I can't see both the. There you go. Alright, matter. And mattering usually being defined as how many branches there are, or how many times one randomly brings up what choice you made, or maybe someone shoots you in the head because, I don't know, 6 hours ago in the game you dissed them. And I mean, those kind of choices are quite powerful, obviously, and they have a strong effect. But I think there's a lot of other kind of effects that we should be looking at. Specifically, I want to talk first about Dragon Age. Dragon Age has a lot of choices in it. You pick most of what your character says throughout the game. But most of those choices don't matter. You know, whether you picked like the top, middle, or bottom option in some random dialogue with some random person, I mean, maybe it affects whether Blackwell disagrees and will later sleep with you, but it doesn't really influence anything larger than that, if that at all. I challenge you to imagine the game without those choices and what that game would feel like. Specifically, I think most of the choices in that game influence the way that you feel connected with your character. Because you choose everything they say, even if those things don't matter, you feel like you're you. You don't watch someone going around leading the Inquisition and seizing people's land. You feel like you are that person. When someone says something that makes you mad, you can be mad. When someone says something that makes you mad, but you feel like you shouldn't be mad right now, you can be not mad, or at least feign not being mad, or maybe be sarcastic instead if this is Dragon Age 2. So those choices create an effect. Maybe not the same kind of effect as branching choices, but they create an effect. They add to the experience and they use interactivity to do that. And I mean, contrast that to The Witcher 3, for example. In The Witcher 3, you still make choices, but they're more of the degree of, you know, what do you do? How do you solve this quest? Are you going to continue talking to this person? You know, choices that, quote, matter in the traditional sense. And that makes sense. The Witcher 3 is about an existing character, Geralt. You don't get to decide their reaction to everything because they're not a character of your choosing. And you feel that when you play the game, that they're not a character of your choosing. They're a character of a certain kind. My favorite example is actually in Mass Effect 3, where after the first third in the game, you have the option to do something terrible. And I mean, in the third game, your character's already sort of suffering from PTSD symptoms from the first two games. So after you do this terrible thing, you get to make choices that don't matter. Specifically, you get to talk to characters who are your friends or perhaps your love interests and sit down with them and talk to them about how you feel. And the options of how you feel are either admitting the effects that this has had on you, or pretend that you're the stoic hero that can just champion any burden and do whatever is right and face no emotional consequence. And that to me was very interesting because the choice didn't so much impact what happened next, but it impacted how I saw myself. Specifically, it asked me as a player to decide how my character felt about themselves. And I found that very evocative. So in Grow Fast, I am making a number of choices that, quote, matter, but I'm also going to be trying to do some of this deciding who your character is or how they feel about themselves choices that don't necessarily add up. Or when they do add up, it will more add up in deciding how your character sees themselves in the end. Specifically in the game, you are in a romantic relationship with someone, and there are segments where you're alone with that person, you know, at one of your homes or in some other private place, and you get to talk about what happened in the day to you and them, and you get to talk about how you feel about things, because your partner will ask you, as a lot of people ask people when they're troubled about something, how they feel. And it's not so much what choices you made before, but you get to elaborate as a character why you made those choices and add additional context and think about what those contexts were for your character and the one that you're building. And in those circumstances, I'll admit there is a little bit of an aspect of it mattering, just because the person you're in a relationship with is a big part of the place that you're working in, where a lot of the shit that's happening is happening. So them knowing how you feel about something you did may influence things just because they also have their own agenda, their own attachment to things, and their own goals. So there's a bit of complexity, I think, is also in normal relationships where you may really want to tell your partner how you feel because that's a safe space for you and a chance to get your feelings out. But sometimes you're also worried, what will they think of me if I tell them this? What will they change if I tell them this? And more interestingly, and something that I saw Planescape Torment do a lot, a game which I never actually beat, but Planescape Torment do a lot, which is have the same option twice. It does the exact same thing, but one of them just says lie in front of it. So now when you pick the options, you could just say you're lying as a player in your head. But I think when the game reinforces the fact that this is an option where you can lie, it reinforces your agency and has a little bit more of a punch when you actually make those choices and you feel maybe regretful that you had to lie, but maybe you feel that that was the only option you had. And you also get to have sex with your partner. So if this whole sharing feelings thing isn't really doing it for you, I mean, hopefully that will.